Pay attention to this act of positive energy happening on the street. An elderly person suddenly collapsed on their way home around 4 p.m. There were still quite a few passers-by, but no one stepped forward to help the elderly person lying on the road. Some even saw the person lying on the ground and chose to turn a blind eye, hurriedly leaving. Obviously, they had their own concerns, fearing the elderly person might be malicious. The person lying on the ground was murmuring something in a coma, maybe hoping someone would help them, but unfortunately, no one was willing to attend to them. Time was passing by, minute by minute. If the elderly person lay on the road for a long time, it would be very detrimental to their condition. In the critical moment, a man wearing a blue short-sleeved shirt suddenly stopped walking. He didn't know what had happened to the elderly person who collapsed on the ground. So he bent down, placed his hands under the knees, and asked the elderly lady what had happened. At this time, the elderly person's consciousness was a bit blurry and couldn't answer the boy's questions, leaving the boy at a loss. In fact, a wave of positive energy had already ignited in his heart. He had to find every way to help the elderly person lying on the ground. It was obvious that the man in blue was very anxious. Standing in place, pacing back and forth, his anxious mood looked around, hoping someone would extend a helping hand to help the elderly person lying on the ground. At this moment, two ladies and a child slowly walked over from not far away. They did not distance themselves, but slowly approached the elderly person lying on the ground. So the man proactively asked the two women if they had a phone, because he understood that without knowing why the elderly person collapsed, the best way was to call an emergency number. The women, without any concern, quickly took out their phones and handed them to the man in blue. Just as the man in blue made the call, the moment of touching emotion began to see more kind-hearted people join in. A few women riding electric bikes stopped and asked if it might be fainting due to low blood sugar, so someone rummaged through their bags to find some candies. Unfortunately, they couldn't find any. At this moment, a woman pointed in the direction. He quickly rushed to a store that was nearby him. The kind-hearted people also didn't dare to make any moves, fearing that they might cause secondary harm to the elderly person. The elderly person lay on the ground as minutes passed by, and the kind-hearted people by the roadside were also very worried and anxious. A woman dressed in grey swiftly walked to the elderly person, gently helping them sit up and letting them lean against her legs so that the elderly person could sit more comfortably. At this moment, the woman who went to buy candies turned back when she heard the need and ran back to the small shop. Just then, the man in blue suddenly ran into the community. What would he do? Many kind-hearted people continued to care for the elderly person. The woman in pink returned for the second time, bringing drinks and water in her hands. Not long after, the man in blue returned, holding bottled water and candies, and then handed the water and candies to the kind-hearted people for the elderly lady to take. Such a scene was truly heartwarming. If you were moved by the actions of this man in blue and so many kind-hearted people, please give them a big thumbs up and let this positive energy spread. If you were also touched, please say, "Good people live in peace" in the comments section.